name's Granwolf, and I'm sorry for a long delay. I kind of got sick. But last we left off, they had just reached the last home of the house, Rivendell. Now, it is a strange thing, but things that are good to have and days that are good to spend are soon told about, and not much to listen to. While things that are uncomfortable, palpitating, and gruesome may make good tale, and take a deal of telling anyway. They stayed in that good house, 14 days at least, and they found it hard to leave. Bilbo would gladly have stopped there forever and ever, but supposing a wish would have taken him right back to his hobbit hole without trouble. Yet there was little to tell about their stay. The master of the house was an elf friend, one of those people whose fathers came into strange stories before the beginning of history. The wars of the evil goblins and the elves in the first men in the north. In those days of our tale, there were still some people who had both elves and heroes of the north for ancestors. In those days of our tale, there were still people. Okay. And Elrond, the master of the house, was their chief. He was as noble and fair in face as an elf lord, and as strong as a warrior, and as wise as a wizard, and venerable as a king of elves in its kind of summer. He comes into many tales, but his part in the story of Bilbo's great adventure is only a small one, although important. As you will see, if we ever get to the end of it, his house was perfect. Whether you like food, or sleep, or work, or storytelling, or singing, or just sitting and thinking best, or a pleasant mixture of all of them, evil things will not come into that valley. I wish I had time to tell you a few tales or one or two of stories that they heard in that house. All of them, the poems as well, grew refreshed and strong in the few days there. Their clothes were mended, as well as their bruises, their tempers in their hopes. Their bags were filled with food and provisions, light to carry but strong to bring them over the mountain passes. Their plans were improved with the best advice, so the time came to Midsummer's Eve, when they were to go on again with the early sun on the midsummer morning. Elrond knew all about the rooms of every kind. That day he looked at the swords they had brought from the troll's lair and said, "These are not troll make. They are old swords, very old swords of the high elves of the west, my kin. They were made in Gondolin for the Goblin Wars. They must have come from a dragon's horde or a goblin plunder, for dragons and goblins destroyed that city many ages ago. This, Thorin, the rune name's Orcrist, the Goblin Cleaver. In the ancient tongue Gondolin, it was a famous blade. This, Gandalf, was Lambrin, Foehammer. That was the king of Gondolin once wore. Keep them well." "Whence did the trolls get them, I wonder?" said Thorin, looking at his sword with new interest. "I could not say," said Elrond, "but one may guess that your trolls have plundered other plunderers, or come on the remnants of old robberies in some hold in the mountains of the north. I have heard that there are still forgotten treasures of old to be found in the deserted caverns of the mines of Moria, since the dwarves and goblin war." Thorin pondered his words. "I will keep this sword in honor. May it cleave goblins once again. I wish that is likely to be granted soon enough in the mountains. But show me now your map." He took it and gazed long at it, and he shook his head, for he did not approve of dwarves and their love for gold. He hated dragons and their cruel wickedness, and he grieved to remember the ruin of the town of Dale and its merry bells, and the burned banks of the bright river running. The moon was shining in a broad silver crescent. He held the map up, and the white light shone through it. "What is this?" he said. "There are moon letters here, besides the plain runes which say 5 feet high the door, and 3 may walk abreast." "What are moon letters?" asked the Hobbit, full of excitement. He loved maps, as I told you before, and he also liked runes and letters and cunning handwriting, though when he wrote it was a bit thin and spidery. "Moon letters are rune letters, but you cannot see them. said Elrond, not when you look straight at them. They can only be seen when the moon shines behind them. And what's more, with the more cunning sort, it must be a moon of the same shape and season as the day they were written. The dwarves invented them and wrote them with silver pens, as your friends could tell you. These must have been written on a midsummer's eve and a crescent moon on a long while ago. What do they say? Asked Gandalf and Thorin together, a bit vexed that even Elrond should have found this first, though really there had not been a chance before, and there would not have been another chance, neither until goodness knows when. Stand by the grey stone when the thrush knocks, read Elrond, and the setting sun with the last light of Durin's day will shine through the keyhole. Durin! Said Thorin. He was the father of fathers of the eldest race of dwarves, the Longbeards, my first ancestor. I am his heir. When is Durin's day? Asked Elrond. The first day of the Dwarves' New Year, said Thorin. It is, as all should know, the first day of the last moon of autumn on the threshold of winter. We still call it Durin's Day, when the last moon of autumn and sun are together in the sky. But these will not help us much, I fear, for it passes our skill in these days to guess when such a time will come again. That remains to be seen, Gandalf said. Is there any more riding? None to be seen by this moon, said Elrond, and he gave the map back to Thorin. And then they went down to the water to see the elves dance and sing upon a midsummer's eve. The next morning was a midsummer's morning, as fair and fresh as it could be dreamed. Blue sky and never a cloud, and the sun was dancing on the water. Now they rode away amid a song of farewell and good speed, with their hearts ready for more adventure, and with the knowledge of the roads they must follow over the misty mountains to the land beyond. And that's the end of the chapter, but I see we still have some time left, so I'm going to go into the next chapter, which is Chapter 4, Over Hill and Under Hill. There were many paths that led up to those mountains, and many passes over them, but most of the paths were cheats and deceptions and led nowhere or to bad ends, and most of the passes were infested by evil things and dreadful dangers. The dwarves and the Hobbit, helped by the wise advice of Elrond and knowledge and the memory of Gandalf, took the right road to the right pass. Long days after they had climbed out of the valley and left the last homely house miles behind, they were still going up and up. It was a hard path and a dangerous path, a crooked way and a lonely and a long. Dangerous path. Now they could look back over the lands they had left, laid out behind them far below, far, far away in the west, where things were blue and faint. Bilbo knew that there lay his own country of safe and comfortable things in his little hobbit hole. He shivered. It was getting bitter cold up here, and the wind came shrill along the rocks. Boulders, too, at times came galloping down the mountainsides, let loose by midday sun and upon the snow, and passed upon them, which was lucky, or over their heads, which was alarming. The nights were comfortless and chill, and they did not dare to sing or talk too much, for the echoes were uncanny, and the silence seemed to dislike being broken, except by the noise of the water and the wail of the wind and the crack of stone. The summer is getting on down below, thought Bilbo, and haymaking is going on and picnics. They will be harvesting and blackberrying before we even begin to go down the other side at this rate. And the others were thinking equally gloomy thoughts, although when they said goodbye to Elrond, the high hope of a midsummer's morning, they had spoken gaily of the pass of the mountains and of this riding swift across the lands beyond. They had thought of coming to the secret door in Lonely Mountain, perhaps that very next first moon of autumn, and perhaps it would be Durin's Day, they had said. Only Gandalf had shaken his head and said nothing. Dwarves had not passed that way for many years, but Gandalf had, and he knew how evil and danger had grown and thrived in the wild. Since the dragons had driven men from the lands and the goblins had spread in secret after the Battle of Mines in Moria, Even the good plans of the wise wizards like Gandalf and of good friends like Elrond go astray sometimes when you are off on adventures over the edge of the wild. And Gandalf was wise enough wizard to know it. And I'm going to stop right there because it seems like